We will continue to support them to succeed, and we shall continue to advocate our women.
President Buhari seeks legal backing for women inclusion in governance.
Mimi Samia Suluhu Hassan naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu kwa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania.
Samia Suluhu Hassan takes oath of office as the first female president of Tanzania and first in East Africa.
Not everybody will get the information that the European Union, the regulatory body, has now reversed and provided clarity and validated that the use of AstraZeneca is safe.
National Primary Healthcare Development Agency synergizes with Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs over COVID-19 vaccination. And European Union regulator declares AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine safe for use. Hello, it's a pleasure having you join us on NTA Network News tonight. I am Juma Yusuf. Dr. Ogunyemi will be joining me from Lagos, while Sadia Umadigi is in our Sokoto studio. Thanks for joining us. Now, history has been made in Tanzania as Samia Suluhu Hassan takes oath of office as Tanzania's president, making her the country's first woman to assume the position. Adebola Brookston Sunday reports that she has also become the first female president in East Africa.
Mimi Samia Suluhu Hassan naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu kwa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania.
Samia Suluhu Hassan is a soft-spoken woman, from vice president position to Tanzania's first female leader after John Magufuli's sudden death. Born in 1960 in Zanzibar, a former slaving hub and trading outpost in the Indian Ocean, Samia graduated from high school, and at 17, she took a clerkship in a government office after she publicly said her finishing results were poor. After undertaking further study, she rose through the ranks to become a developmental officer in the Zanzibari government. She was employed as a project manager for the UN's World Food Programme, and later in the 1990s, Samia Suluhu was made executive director of an umbrella body governing non-governmental organizations in Zanzibar. She became a parliament member for the Makudunchi constituency from 2010 to 2015 and has been Minister of State in the Vice President's Office for Union Affairs since 2010. In 2014, she served as the Vice Chairperson for the Constitutional Assembly, which was tasked with drafting Tanzania's new constitution. Suluhu is married and have 3 sons and a daughter who is a member of the Zanzibar House of Representatives. After consulting with her Chamacha Mapinduzi ruling party, Suluhu will propose her possible successor as vice president to be confirmed by the National Assembly. Under the constitution, 61-year-old Suluhu will serve the remaining Magufuli's second 5-year term, which will expire in 2025. Adebola, Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
Now, President Muhammadu Buhari is asking the Ministries of Women Affairs and Justice to collaborate more effectively with the National Assembly towards securing a legal backing for increased women participation in politics in the ongoing constitutional and electoral reform processes. This was while addressing members of the national and international working groups supporting the advancement of gender equity initiative during a courtesy visit. The president also lends his voice to the amendment of his party's constitution to provide for effective and meaningful participation of women in elective offices. State House correspondent Adam Sambo has the details.
Nigeria is more than ever committed to join in raising the bar for women's representation at all levels.
Describing women as a credible force in strengthening Nigeria's democracy, sustaining her socio-economic fabric, and promoting the culture of peace, President Muhammadu Buhari said his administration will not leave anything to chance in promoting women's inclusiveness in national development.
Given the size of our population, more can be done to improve the participation of Nigerian women in politics and in seeking elective office. Education of the girl child and the empowerment of mothers are fundamental to achieving an increase in the number of female leaders in the country and our objective of lifting 100 million out of poverty in 10 years.
He said whatever it takes can be done towards tackling the twin evils of limited access to education and poverty, as well as gender-based violence.
Despite the spike of incidents of abduction of school children and other security challenges, this government remains resolute in its pursuit of a just and credible society, devoid of inequalities and promotion of the rule of law. Let me assure you all that we remain committed to working with groups such as yours to address these challenges.
Already, the president said an interministerial committee has been inaugurated towards addressing all forms of violence against women and children, while 45% of the small and medium-scale enterprises funds has been reserved exclusively for women. President Buhari also takes pride in entrusting key government portfolios to women and also engaging in what he called intense diplomacy to support the aspirations of Nigerian women to provide leadership at the global stage.
We will continue to support them to succeed, and we shall continue to advocate our women who qualify to lead international fora.
APC chieftain and former Senate President Ken Namani said the governing party already has a legacy of giving women the greatest chance to rise in the history of the country, saying this will also improve the party's fortunes in elections.
We are not only women friendly, we're kind of encouraging our ladies to participate more in Nigerian politics.
I feel overwhelmed with joy. I feel elated on behalf of Nigerian women, and I believe that the more we have women in elective positions, the better for this country. I trust Mr. President, and I know that he will leave a legacy that will stand the test of time in this country on women issues.
We need more women in the system, and Mr. President has promised, and we will see a whole lot of difference once that happens.
We've waited long for this to happen, and we are delighted that we will move on to the level of actually bringing this to become reality.
Former President of the Republic of Malawi, Dr. Joyce Banda, delivered a goodwill message at the event commemorating the 2021 International Women's Day with the theme, Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a Coronavirus World. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Still talking women affairs, FCT Minister of State Ramatu Tijani Aliu has declared that women deserve an equal future, free from stigma, violence, as well as equal rights and opportunities for all. The minister was speaking at a World Press Conference as part of activities to commemorate the International Women's Day in Abuja. Ifeanyi Ezumba reports that numerous NGOs in the field of women graced the event.
In leadership, achieving an equal future in COVID-19 world, with a sub-theme has chosen to challenge.
While appreciating the numerous NGOs in the field of women, FCT Minister of State Ramatu Tijani Aliu pointed out that when women lead, there will always be positive results.
Women are yet to form the critical mass in the legislation, that is in the legislative arm. We are just about 1% now. So we are calling upon women to actually come out, to be bold enough to contest, to vie for positions.
The issue of participation of women in the service has become the norm. In FCT administration, it is also the situation.
Acting Secretary, Social Development Secretariat, Kevin Ike, and others stress that the essence of the program is to build a strong women fold in the FCT.
What we do in Social Development Secretariat is total emancipation of women and children.
Having seen what women can do, both at a national and local level, it is important that that space be created to encourage other women to step in.
Presentation of special gift on behalf of FCT women by the FCT Minister of State. Among the recipients are the Permanent Secretary, FCTA, Acting Secretary, FCT Health and Human Services Secretariat, among others. In Abuja, Ifani Isumba, NTA News.
Now let's bring you up to speed with other stories. Islam does not forbid vaccination as long as it does not affect the health and spiritual well-being of the individual. This came to the fore at the Sensitization Forum of Muslim Scholars and Imams on COVID-19 vaccination organized by the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency in collaboration with the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs. Basi Ita Epang reports.
Since the federal government rolled out COVID-19 vaccines in March, Nigerians have been asking questions on the safety and efficacy of the vaccines and whether or not the vaccine has the capacity of affecting or changing the DNA of an individual. This gathering of representatives of federal government and Muslim leaders gave explanation on these amid many more of such questions.
Not everybody will get the information that the European Union, the regulatory body, has now reversed and provided clarity and validated that the use of AstraZeneca is safe. But it is very important and instrumental that a day after the European Medicines Agency cleared the air on the linkage between AstraZeneca and blood clotting, that we're meeting here today to deliberate further.
So therefore we can, with every sense of correctness, take this vaccine as a gift from above, the vaccines against COVID-19.
The Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Saad Abubakar III, said the conversation was timely.
It's left for you to want to take the vaccine, because we will not force you. We only advise you. We only try to appeal to you, like we did with the polio vaccine decades ago, and today we are polio-free.
The conversation, which centered on the safety of the vaccines, was an opportunity for people to ask questions on the side effects, rumors surrounding the vaccines, and preservation of the vaccines sent to states, as well as vaccination of pregnant women, unlike previous vaccines. Some suggested that Muslim leaders should check the vaccine as a proof of safety. Basi Taipa, NTA News.
In the meantime, European countries have restarted the use of AstraZeneca vaccine following the findings of the European Medical Agency examining cases of blood clotting. The EU regulator determined that the AstraZeneca vaccine is not associated with higher risks of blood clots and reaffirmed that the vaccine is safe and effective. Countries across Europe, including Germany, France and Spain, have therefore resumed administering the AstraZeneca vaccine today. The World Health Organization also reaffirmed the safety and efficacy of the AstraZeneca vaccine, along with the UK medical regulator. The UK also reports it has not observed increased rates of blood clotting. Now, the Minister of Defense, Bashir Magashi, says the unconventional warfare in the country is being confronted with best of strategies to ensure the return of peace and tranquility. The reassurance came when the House of Representatives Committee on Defense went on oversight to the ministry. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
Diligent discharge of constitutional mandates by the armed forces, the minister told the House members, has to a large extent enabled the gradual return of peace in areas challenged by insurgency, while intermittent incursions are regularly repelled. He acknowledges the support and commitment of lawmakers through appropriations and other legislative efforts to collectively combat insecurity.
Certainly,
the visit offers another opportunity for better appreciation of our distinct and complementary roles towards safeguarding the security and territorial integrity of our dear country.
The chairman House Committee on Defense, Representative Baba Jimmy Benson, was particularly concerned about current system of funding for the defense sector. The House of Representatives, he says, is coming up with a more effective alternative.
These bills are currently at various stages of consideration in the House. One of such legislations is the Nigerian Armed Forces Support Fund, which is seeking to create a 5-year funding plan for the Nigerian Armed Forces outside the budgetary allocation. It aims at revamping the armed forces through provision of regular training for its personnel and provision of modern equipment for effective defense of Nigeria's territory and fight against insurgency and other related matters.
The Ministry of Defense got 100% budgetary release for capital projects for 2020, but the COVID-19 pandemic affected implementation. Lami Ali, NTA News.
And Chief of Defense Staff General Lucky Irabo has expressed commitment in tapping into the skills, competence, knowledge and exposure of Nigerians in diaspora who specialize in defense and security architecture. General Irabo stated this when he received the chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri Erewa, at the defense headquarters in Abuja. The Chief of Defense Staff commended NITCAM for engaging Nigerians in diaspora in meaningful contributions to national development. He promised to sustain the drive for gender equity in the armed forces as well as structure data mapping of Nigerian military personnel serving globally. The chairman, NITCAM, Abike Dabiri Erewa, said, given the number of highly qualified Nigerians in the defense and security sector, it becomes necessary to bring them together in the proposed NITCAM Diaspora Defense and Security Conference. The NITCAM boss made a case for enlistment of more women into the military for gender equity. Now, let's take our first break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back. The ideas, inventions and innovations showcased at this year's Technology and Innovation Expo are capable of transforming Nigeria's economy to a knowledge-based one. Minister of Science and Technology Dr. Ogbonaya Onu said this at the closing ceremony of the Expo in Abuja. Adebola Brooks-Sunday was there and now reports.
The 5-day expo was an opportunity for exhibitors from all parts of the country to showcase their ingenuity. Hydroponics, a system of growing plants usually without soil, capable of assisting in farmer-herders clashes, is one of the innovations on display.
If every state can have ranches, as you confine them, you provide, what they can actually use to feed on.
Because of COVID, Nigerians still carried out so much research. That means that our scientists and engineers, while they were in the lockdown, were not sleeping.
Ogbonaya Onu said the federal government is rewarding the first, second and third winners in all the categories with 1 million naira, 750,000 naira and 500,000 naira. Adding that the presidential directive of Special Fund for Research and Development in the country will go a long way in helping Nigeria create more wealth.
It is not for the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, you must understand this. This is for the ecosystem. All our universities, our research institutions, our polytechnics, they will benefit from, that expenditure.
R&D is very, very important towards national development, and we will see more of it with the support that the president has given them now with this 0.5%.
The ministry is also putting in place a mechanism that will ensure that the research by inventors and innovators will not remain on the shelf.
Lay a solid infrastructure that will encourage venture capitalists, to begin to look at those such findings that they can fund for the purposes of, ensuring that they are utilized.
With the theme Science, Technology and Innovation for Economic Recovery and Sustainability amidst COVID-19 challenges, key players said the expo will help in building a new culture of science and technology in the country. Adebola Brooks-Sunday, NTA News.
The federal government has inaugurated the reconstituted National Productivity Order of Merit Award Committee for the purpose of selecting deserving awardees for conferment. The committee is tasked with the responsibility of selecting and recommending individuals and organizations for conferment of the National Productivity Order of Merit Award by the President. Inaugurating the committee in Abuja, Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, stated that the reconstitution of the committee and its inauguration demonstrates government's commitment to issues of productivity and its enhancement in Nigeria.
I expect also that you hit the ground running so that we can have nominees for 2019 and 2020. We couldn't do both because of the COVID intervention. But even with the COVID, we now said the time is now. Let us see how to build back what we seem to have lost.
Sir urged the committee to apply probity and fairness in the discharge of their responsibility. The committee has Barrister Ikechi Uko, a representative of the productive sector, as chairman. Now, the federal government is set to introduce a central monitoring system that will help in keeping an eagle eye on the activities of lottery operators in Nigeria. At a meeting with the operators, Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, George Akume, cautioned that government will not hesitate to sanction any operator that is not meeting up in its statutory obligations. Kunle Adeye reports.
Lottery is being practiced in almost every country, but it is regulated to protect all interests. In Nigeria, the authorities have some irregularities and are moving to address them. Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs George Akume was blunt in his submissions to the lottery operators.
It's 2005, when the commission was created by Act of Parliament. The industry has never been regulated properly. We are determined to make a difference now.
The operators offered explanation for their inability to comply to government directives, citing pressures from state governments as reasons, but regulatory agencies in charge of lottery operations gave more insight.
We don't have any issues with this, which we've also identified from my own engagement with most of the state regulators. But we need to have a policy from both the regulators and the national body that would be presented.
Some of your own activities are done online, real time, isn't it? And of course, by so doing, it is assumed that all Nigerians across the nooks and crannies of this country are participating in your games. It is nullifying the issue of state licensing.
It was also disclosed at the meeting that a bill which will clearly spell out functions of governments at national and sub-national levels will be forwarded to the National Assembly. In Abuja, Kunle Adeye, NTA News.
Establishing a permanent institutionalized dialogue between the public and private sector at all levels, many believe, will help in the promotion of technical and vocational education and training of youths in Nigeria. This was a key point at a breakfast meeting between German corporation and media executives in Nigeria. Haman Jabani reports.
Skills Development for Youth Employment is a project instituted to achieve German government's objectives in the fields of international cooperation for sustainable development, promote international education, work, and human capacity development. It is working on 1,500 projects in about 120 countries. In Nigeria, it is working in 15 states under 7 projects, including the Skills Development for Youth Employment, and it has trained about 6,500 youths in construction, agriculture, ICT, fashion, and hospitality, and the media, whose Gs believe are viable partners. The meeting, therefore, is to fashion out ways of achieving the set targets.
The idea is also to introduce, for example, job centers in different states, to also provide information with regard to technical training, but also to the possibilities of different trades to be trained in.
For the media, what can they put on the table?
As a journalist, as a media outfit where I belong, we better encourage and promote skills rather than a paper qualification.
NTA will continue to partner with non-governmental organizations and government organizations as well as technical institutions in promoting this aspect of human life and also encouraging youth to key into technical education.
It is believed that with the support of the media, the over 43% of the potential working population in Nigeria that are unemployed or underemployed will soon be reached for training and gainful employment. Hamman Jabani, NTA News.
Now talking judiciary, the National Judicial Council has recommended to President Muhammadu Buhari for approval the appointment of 26 judicial officers, 18 justices of the Court of Appeal and 8 heads of court. The council at its 94th meeting held this week also empaneled committee to investigate one judge and issue 2 strong warning letters to judges. The recommended judges are Chief Judges for Rivers, Nasarawa, Kogi, Jigawa, Ebonyi and Delta States and the FCT. 18 justices were recommended for Court of Appeal and that of President Customary Court of Appeal, Delta State. NJC Director of Information Soji Oye in a statement said the council also received notifications of retirement of 17 judicial officers and notifications of death of 3 judges from the federal and state judiciary. To electoral matters now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has advised the 74 deregistered political parties to await the judgment of the Supreme Court on appeals relating to the powers of the Commission to deregister political parties in accordance with Section 225A of the Constitution. A statement by INEC National Commissioner for Information, Festus Okoye, says this notice becomes necessary against the backdrop of various letters submitted to the Commission recently by some of the deregistered political parties signifying their intention to conduct primaries with a view to submitting names and particulars of candidates for the Anambra governorship election. The deregistered parties hinged their request to nominate candidates on the judgment of the Court of Appeal delivered on June 11, 2020. INEC says it will continue to recognize and deal with only the 18 registered political parties pending the final resolution and determination of the various appeals filed and pending before the Supreme Court. The Federal Road Safety Corps has arrested a total of 617 rickety vehicles nationwide since it commenced clampdown on vehicles that are not roadworthy on March 1st this year. Corps Public Education Officer BC Kazim made this known while speaking with NTA's Oyeyemi Ajayi. The report.
The use of old and rickety vehicles have been said to be a threat to human lives, especially passengers who tend to be victims when there is auto crash. With road accidents said to be one of the major causes of deaths in the country, death figures from rickety vehicles involved in crashes are said to be on the rise. Consequently, the Corps Marshal FRSC Boboye Oyeyemi gave a marching order to its officials to impound any rickety and road-unworthy vehicles, mandating them to prosecute owners and operators. It was said that since the commencement of the exercise on the 1st of March this year, Kaduna, Kano, Katsina and Jigawa sector commands recorded the highest numbers of arrests with 160 impoundments, while a total of 89 arrests were made in Adamawa State alone.
We have started recording low road traffic crashes, but incidentally we started recording more fatalities. And we found out that apart from offenses like speed violation, we found out that the state of the vehicles is making fatalities to be high. People are taking this rickety issue very serious, and we are saying that we'll continue until we now see that Nigerian roads are rid of these rickety vehicles.
The Corps enjoined motorists to ensure regular maintenance of their vehicles in view of inherent traffic hazards associated with abandoned and broken down vehicles, especially at night. In Abuja, Oyeyemi Ajayi, NTA News.
Time now to join our Lagos studio where Dr. is waiting with more reports. Hello, Dr. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Jumai. As producers of major materials used for building and construction, the steel industry is essential for industrial development. Following the spate of building collapse, the federal government is poised to revamp the steel subsector by getting rid of substandard varieties. Adeni Taiwo reports.
Scenes of collapsed buildings are always disturbing, yet they are common realities in Nigeria, especially in cosmopolitan areas such as Lagos. In 2016, the collapse of a 5-story building under construction in Lekki, Lagos, left 34 casualties. Most often, these incidents are blamed on the use of substandard building materials, especially steel bars used for reinforced concrete to provide deep foundation and basement, among others. The attendant loss of lives and shelter is not acceptable to the federal government, and its quality control agencies are now redoubling efforts to ensure sanity in the steel industry.
We're going to sample the market randomly. We're going to make sure every distributor who is found wanting is prosecuted.
The agency, at an interaction with stakeholders, says it will maintain regular market surveillance and monitoring of building sites.
We have given them moratorium to evacuate those things and then do away with them, take them back to the furnace and melt them. Because if we see you with substandard product, we'll trace the manufacturer.
They say ensuring standard in the steel industry is equally important for the economy. Now that the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement presents manufacturers and exporters of quality products in Nigeria the opportunity to explore the African regional market. In Lagos, Adeni Taiwo, NTA News.
There is a renewed vigor to achieve the mandate of reducing the cost of doing business at the Nigerian ports by 30%, as the Nigerian Shippers Council is compiling a register of regulated service providers with a view of streamlining tariff, charges and fees payable for services rendered within the port community. Michael Olale reports.
When the federal government in 2014 appointed the Nigerian Shippers Council as the port economic regulator, the purpose was to create an effective regime at Nigerian ports for the control of tariff, rates and other economic services to prevent arbitrariness in charges. In order to achieve this mandate, a register of regulated service providers was opened in 2019 to monitor and enforce standard at Nigerian ports while eliminating abuse of dominant market position.
The ICDs.
The agency, therefore, through this platform, is reminding terminal operators, shipping lines, freight forwarders and cargo consolidators of the need to register because of its immense benefits to the maritime industry.
Again, in terms of economic planning, it will help government to predict the number and type of operators in the port sector. The third benefit is on the issue of authenticating the genuineness of port service providers.
Since the guidelines for registration was issued, only a few organizations have responded, and for those yet to signal their interest, a grace of 1 month has been activated, after which the agency reserves the right to sanction violators.
Sanction can equally be in form of sealing the premises of the service provider. Sanction can be in form of delisting.
This move is one of the numerous interventions under the new port regime aimed at encouraging ease of doing business. In Lagos, Michael Olale, NT News.
And that's not all from here, as Bolade Salami is standing by to bring us updates in the world of business.
Much, Dotun. Good evening and welcome to the Business News segment. The Central Bank of Nigeria will continue to provide monetary policy measures that will enable faster recovery of the economy through improved flow of credit to businesses in key sectors of the economy. Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele said these measures are necessary if we are to retain a sustainable growth path while reducing our exposure to volatility in commodity prices.
The point is this: we have said that as much as possible, the monetary policy focus and direction will be, and I repeat, systematic synchronization of monetary policy measures, okay, to see to it that whatever we're doing, price and monetary stability remains very core, but it must also be conducive to growth. So you would have started to see that CBN has substantially broadened the size of its UMO and is managing the cost of its open market operation. And for that reason, that's the reason, having achieved that objective, we're beginning to see somewhat movement in yield. But if we think at the level that it is right now, I think it is sustainable, and this is where we will be.
To equities market. Equities market closed the week in red as investors lost 139.22 billion naira. Details in this report. Friday, the Russia index dropped to 38,382.39 basis points, with a volume of shares traded at 290 million, valued at 4.17 billion naira, which exchanged hands in 4,311 deals, and a market capitalization of 20.8 trillion naira. Ikeja Hotel led on the gainers table with 10%, followed by Eternal and USCP gaining 9.84% and 7.37%, while Lasako, Bois Cement and Nimet declined in figures by 6.92%, 6.42% and 6.32%. On the activity chart, NSE Banking, Consumer Goods and Insurance posted gains, appreciating by 2.80%, 0.08% and 0.94%. While NSE Industrial and Oil and Gas declined in figures by 4.40% and 0.22%. On business, Juma in Abuja will be back with the rest of the news. Do stay with us.
Thank you so much. We will now go on another break. When we return, more reports coming your way. Don't go away. It's good to know you're still there. President Muhammadu Buhari has granted audience to the Emir of Zazzau, Alhaji Ahmed Nuhu Bamali. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the meeting held behind closed doors was the first formal engagement between the president and the monarch. Details of their discussions were not made public and efforts to hear from the Emir were not successful. Alhaji Nuhu Bamali was coronated as the 19th Emir of Zazzau on the 9th of November 2020. He is the first Emir to be enthroned from the Malawa ruling house in a century after the demise of his grandfather, Emir Alu Ansidi, in 1920. Before ascending the throne, Alhaji Nuhu Bamali served as Nigeria's ambassador to Thailand with concurrent accreditation to Myanmar. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved reappointment of Dr. Diko Umaru Rada for a second term as Chief Executive Officer of Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDEN. In a statement from the Corporate Affairs Unit of SMEDEN, the reappointment was contained in a letter signed by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa. Reacting to his reappointment, Diko Umaru thanked President Muhammadu Buhari for the confidence and trust reposed in him. Time to join Sadia in Sokoto for more reports. Hello, Sadia.
Jummai, glad to have you join us. The second round of sittings by the National Human Rights Commission Special Investigative Panel on Gender-Based Violence in Nigeria is to afford all parties the opportunity to address the issues from a holistic perspective. The Executive Secretary of the Commission, Tony Ojukwu, stated this at the public sitting of the panel in Sokoto. Sheikh Muhammad Detti reports.
The core mandate of the National Human Rights Commission is to promote, protect, and enforce the human rights of Nigerians and persons living in Nigeria. The Commission is also vested with the power to investigate all alleged cases of human rights violation, monitor development in various areas of human rights, and bring its findings to the attention of government to ensure compliance with international and human rights obligations, among others. Declaring the public hearing open, Governor Aminu Waziri Tambol, represented by Sokoto State Commissioner for Justice Suleiman Osman, senior advocate of Nigeria, said Sokoto State government has taken a giant stride in promotion of human rights and fighting against gender-based violence.
What we've done is to look at the Violence Against Persons Act, which is the principal legislation in the country, and enact the provisions subject to local circumstances.
The Executive Secretary and Chairman of the investigation panel, Tony Ojukwu Exware, said so far they have received more than 10 complaints and are expecting more before the panel ends its sitting in Sokoto.
It is our mandate to promote and protect the human rights of people, including human rights of women. So when this kind of pandemic within a pandemic is declared by government, we cannot afford to now sit back. We must lead the fight.
Goodwill messages were presented by civil society organizations, Ministry for Women Affairs, the media, Nigerian Bar Association, expressing support towards the fight against sexual and gender-based violence. In Sokoto, Sho Muhammad Datti, NTA News.
Now, as part of efforts to discourage street begging in Kebbi State, about 60 members of the Association of the Blind have been trained on different vocations, and each was presented with 50,000 naira. Hassana Abubakar Koko reports that wife of Kebbi State Governor, Dr. Zainab Shinkafi Bagudu, pledged to sustain the program.
The blind persons are vulnerable members of the society who need assistance from government, individuals and corporate organizations in order to be off the streets and live a meaningful life. In view of this, the Kebbi State government, under the office of the wife of the governor, Dr. Zainab Shinkafi Bagudu, trained and empowered some of the blinds who are committed to engage in small businesses but could not due to financial constraints. Dr. Zainab Bagudu said the blinds too are important members of the society and therefore have the right to benefit from the government programs like every other citizen of the state. The wife of the governor, who appealed to the beneficiaries to pray for peace and stability of the country, urged them to use the money given to them judiciously. Some of the beneficiaries explained that begging is dehumanizing. They promised to make best use of the financial assistance to further encourage the governor's wife to extend the gesture to others. In Birnin Kebbi, Hassana Abubakar Koko reporting.
More news with Jumma in Abuja after this break.
Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth entrepreneurship support years by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. Hashtag Youth for Greater Nigeria. Pacifying the youths, unifying the nation.
Edo State government is to receive funds from the federal government for the hosting of the National Sports Festival scheduled to begin on April 2nd, but will be officially flagged off by President Muhammadu Buhari on the 6th. Minister of Sports Sunday Dare disclosed this in a meeting with Governor Godwin Obaseki in Benin. Elizabeth Omoko reports this and the minister's on-the-spot assessment of the major facilities for the fiesta.
Minister of Sports is in Edo State to reassure Nigerians of President Muhammadu Buhari's commitment to host the festival amidst the cost implications of the postponed dates.
The federal government is ready and willing to provide financial support. That April 2nd, the camp for the sports festival will open, and that on April 6th, the official opening of the festival by Mr. President will also take place.
For Governor Basaki, the state government will give maximum support to the federal government in ensuring that the sports festival is successfully hosted.
We will go ahead working with you to prepare the venues to do all the things we need to do, not like athletes to come to Edo and we are not able to feed them 3 square meals while they are here.
At the Samagbamudia Stadium, the minister, alongside the governor, deputy governor, and members of the LOC, inspected the reconstructed facilities where all major events will take place.
What excites most athletes is the facility and the equipment. What we have here is comparable to anyone you can find in the world, global standard. And what we've seen here is a revamp that we've never seen before of a sporting facility in this country.
We are ready. The infrastructure is ready. The accommodation is ready.
Some athletes seen at the facilities were excited about the new developments.
You have the love and passion for sports. If you are woken up at midnight, you will retune and rearrange your thought process. The athletes are ready.
The assurance from the federal government to make funds available for the National Sports Festival, the countdown to the April 6th day begins. In Benin, Elizabeth Amaka, NTA News.
And sports update is next.
Quite a lot of things happening in the world of sports. Let's quickly bring you up to speed. I am Badi Adeleye. 29 FIFA-badged referees have completed a one-day mid-season fitness and mental training in Abuja in readiness for upcoming challenges in Nigeria and on the continent.
The fiscal aspect after making the medical and 100% performance from them, because that is the basis for us to get matches both in CAF and FIFA. So they know what it means to them and they are committed to that.
Meanwhile, Nasarawa United will be hoping to consolidate their position atop the Nigeria Professional Football League standings when they play away to Enugu Rangers this weekend in one of the matchday 17 fixtures. Former table toppers Kwara United are at home to Adamawa United. Lobby Stars host Rivers United. Kano Pillars are away to Wiki Tourist, while Heartland and Warri Wolves have a date. Elsewhere, Arsenal will be hoping to do the double over West Ham United in the Premier League this season, where both teams clash at the London Stadium on Sunday, with the match live on NTA Network from 3:30 in the afternoon. Still talking European football, there will be a repeat of last year's UEFA Champions League final in the quarter-final stage this season after Friday's draw pitted holders Bayern Munich against Paris Saint-Germain, the 2020 losing finalists. Liverpool were also drawn against Real Madrid in a repeat of 2018 final. Manchester City will take on Borussia Dortmund, with Chelsea and FC Porto facing off. Similarly, Manchester United have been drawn against Granada in the quarterfinals of the UEFA Europa League, with Arsenal facing Slavia Prague. Ajax and AS Roma have scores to settle, with Dinamo Zagreb and Villarreal trading tackles. And that will be all on Sports Update. I am Badi Adeleye.
And that's Network News tonight. Don't forget to be a star with NTA as we wage the war against rape and rapists. I am Juma Yusuf.